welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then welcome. Today I will be sharing all the books that I read in March. In March, I read a total of 8 books, which is not bad at all for me. I will say that I feel like the quality of books that I read this month dipped a little in comparison to previous months. Like, I only had one 5-star book this month out of all those 8 books. The rest were either 4 or 3 stars, and I even DNF'd a book. And along with that, in the middle of this month, I got into just like a slight reading slump. So I wouldn't say this month was absolutely perfect, but at least I still read books. And even when I was in a little bit of a reading slump, I'm really proud of myself for not just giving up on reading altogether. I still continued on with something new, even though I didn't really feel like reading all that much in that moment, but I got past it. It was just a short little blip in my reading habits that happened this month. So we're going to talk about those books. And before I get into it, I feel like so weird looking at myself in the viewfinder because I did cut my hair. That is something like new about me right now. And man, I just look like completely different. I cut it off myself because I had so much dead end hair that I was so sick of it that I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to chop it off. I don't even care anymore. My hair was so dead. It would not stop tingling up because it was just so dead. So I just like took some scissors and chopped it off. Anyway, let's just get into talking about the book. I did complete a whole entire trilogy this month, and that is the Captive Prince trilogy. The first book being Captive Prince. So when I first showed this book, I had the original cover to it, but I loved this cover so much more that I repurchased it, even though I already owned the original cover, and I actually ended up purchasing the whole entire series in its new covers. So these covers, oh my god, absolutely stunning. I mean, this is a cover redesign done right. I love them. So this series is a fantasy series, and we're following Daemon, who is the heir to his kingdom. After his brother ends up seizing power and erases Daemon's identity as a prince, he sends them away to a rival kingdom to be a slave for their prince. And so Prince Laurent loathes Daemon because he is the prince of a rival kingdom. And since Laurent is savagely cruel, Daemon feels the exact same way about Laurent. He does not like him at all. However, Laurent and Daemon realize that they have to start working together in order to overcome a plot being made by their kingdoms. This is an older trilogy, and it had always been so polarizing because of its content matter. I was prepared going into this that there would be a lot of explicit debauchery going on in this book based off of reviews about it, because I've always heard that this series focuses a lot on, like, I don't even know how to explain it without being too explicit, like a lot of essay situations, let's call it that. And so before going into this book, I was preparing myself for some really brutal scenes, and I can see why people would think this book is very heavy with the amount of triggers it has, because Laurent's kingdom has very problematic morals when it comes to consent. Morals basically do not exist in his kingdom. For some reason, it's just custom for others to watch others abuse each other. It is so bizarre and so terrible. Laurent's kingdom basically treats their slaves like toys, and it's so freaking sad. There's also some instances of pedophilia in this series as well, because the regent of Laurent's kingdom takes underage boys as slaves. So there's just a lot of triggers going on in this book. So if you have thought about picking up this series, please keep those triggers in mind if they do bother you, because this first book specifically is so heavy with those topics. Like, it was hard for even me to read. But at the same time, I do have to say that this book wasn't nearly as heavy as I thought it was going to be. I just feel like a lot of people who have reviewed this book really laid it in there that this book is like filled with like the most explicit scenes you'll ever read, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, it was still really hard hitting, but I thought it was going to be even more explicit. But there's only a few scenes in the first book that feel very like explicit in the way that they are written. Other than that, it's just a regular fantasy. The first book specifically had my feelings mixed because while I still enjoyed the characters, it was really hard for me to get into because it feels like the only purpose of this book was to set up what was going to happen in the rest of this series. So because of that, there wasn't a whole lot of action going on in this first book. It was mostly just discussions around world building and building up the characters. And for that reason, I don't know why books 1 and 2 are not one book. Like, we could have combined books 1 and 2 into one book so that there's not solely just a lot of information overload like there is in the first book. There would be more action that is in the second book that would balance the first book out if books 1 and 2 were combined. And that is why I gave the first book 3 stars, because I just wanted more action going on in this one and less world building. Like, it just did not feel balanced out in that way enough. However, the rest of the trilogy got so much better, and I'm so glad I continued on with it, because usually when I give the first book in a series 3 stars, I won't continue on with this series, but I was curious enough at the end of the first book to want to know what was going to happen in the rest of the series. So I did decide to pick them up, and I'm just so glad I did, because this series was so freaking good. And so I did continue on with Princess Gambit and King's Rising, and as the series progressed, the characters got even more fascinating. Damon's entire story is so freaking sad because he has been betrayed by his brother, and he feels the loss that comes along with that. Like, he's lost his family just out of nowhere. He was so betrayed by them, and then he gets sent away to be a slave in a kingdom of their enemies, and he's just all alone, and it's so freaking sad. I really felt for him. And Damon did, as a prince, used to take slaves too, but it was interesting because he treats them with respect and kindness, whereas Laurent and his kingdom treats their slaves like absolute crap. They abuse them. They make them SA each other. Like, it is terrible. But I was so intrigued by the contrast of how Damon and Laurent treat their slaves so differently. And Laurent's development, oh my god, absolutely incredible. You will hate him in the first book. He is not a good guy in the first book. He does things that are absolutely so freaking vile. He is so appalling in the first book that I did not know how in the world he was going to redeem himself throughout the rest of the series, because this series has a romance between Damon and Laurent. So because of that fact, I knew that he would have had to redeem himself some way to win over Damon. And he kind of does. He really, really does. He does change a lot by the end of this series, and it is absolutely fascinating. There's a lot that Laurent is going through behind the scenes that isn't revealed until later, because we do follow this series in Damon's point of view, so we really don't know what's going on with Laurent behind the scenes until way later on. And Laurent's view of Damon changes when he sees how much of a strong and noble person he is, and that in turn makes Laurent so much more of a respectable person, because that change in viewpoint makes his character grow. So the first book is not a romance. Keep that in mind. There is no romantic interest between these two at all yet, but they do grow feelings for each other throughout the rest of the series, and it is so phenomenally written. And this was one of the slowest burns I have ever read, and I ate every single bit of it up. You do not see romances in books like this often. When I say slow burn, it is a legit slow burn. Like, these two do not confront their feelings for each other until so much later on in the series, and the build up to that moment when they realize that they love each other, oh my god, it is so freaking good. Like, once these two acted on their feelings for each other, I was literally, like, I know people say this a lot, but I was literally kicking my feet and screaming. I'm not even kidding. I just sat there with my jaw dropped, being like, oh my god. You just feel for these two so much when they go from enemies and then it turns into a friendship, and then they finally act on their feelings for each other. Like, I am just obsessed with them. And I will say, this is the first romance I have ever read. I tried thinking back on all the books that I've read in my lifetime thus far and being like, have I ever read another romance? And I haven't. And that is insane. This was my first one, and I need to read more romances. I've read a sapphic romance before, but I never read an romance before then, so I just need to read more of them because this one was so good. And this is my only overall issue that I had with this series, and it's a personal one. This series is very politically heavy, and because I am someone who is not like completely interested in politics. There were some parts of the series where it did lose my attention when they were talking too much about politics of this world, but the characters and their relationships made up for that. They are the reason why I kept reading this series. So I gave the first book 3 stars, but I gave books 2 and 3 4 stars each. Absolutely amazing series. If you have not read it yet and it sounds like something you'd be into, do check it out. But like I said, please be aware of the triggers in the series. Look them up if you need to, because there are a lot of them. So the next book I read, I actually can't talk about because it was my friend's manuscript, and I'm not going to talk about it at all because it's not published yet. But I will say that it was really good, and I'm super, super proud of my friend for writing this. Like, that is incredible. It is really encouraging me to finally start writing my own books, because that's something I want to do. So reading that was really encouraging me to like start writing finally. I will say that her book falls under the category of like a dark academia thriller, so it was very interesting in its genre. I'm not going to rate it at all, but I am going to mention it here because I am going to count it towards my 2025 reading goal. So I'm going to mention it here because it is a book that I read this month. Now I'm going to talk about the one book that I DNF'd this month, and I will say that it absolutely crushed me to have to DNF this book, but I will also say that I am only probably going to be DNFing it for now, and that is Onyx Storm, part of the Fourth Wing series. I am so freaking sad, y'all. I'm so sad about this one. So I had been trying to catch up on this series because I knew Onyx Storm was coming out. So I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in February, and I planned to get right into Onyx Storm after I finished Iron Flame. And I ended up putting off this book for a while though, because I was just not in a fantasy mood after finishing Iron Flame. So I'm like, okay, let's just put it off for like a week. And then a week turned into what, like 3 weeks. So I just kept putting it off, and then I finally picked it up, and I just could not get into it. I was not liking how Onyx Storm was starting. I just feel like there's so much world building in the third book, and I prefer to have all of my world building in fantasy books done at the beginning, and then we can just focus on the characters and the plot. But in this book, all the characters are doing, at least in the beginning of this book, they're just still having meetings talking about world building and what they're gonna do to get past like conflicts and all that, and it's just so freaking boring. It's so boring. I don't understand why Onyx Storm has been like the biggest book of the year so far, because it was so freaking boring. And another reason why I'm like so let down by this book is that I feel like Violet and Xaden's relationship has lost its roots. Like, I feel like the dynamic that they had in Fourth Wing is completely different to what they have now. In Fourth Wing, there was so much depth to their romance and their relationship, and how each of them were a support to each other, and I feel like that's just been lost in this book. In Onyx Storm, their relationship has felt solely lust-based. Like in this book, at least from what I've read so far, they only want to screw each other. They don't ever talk about their feelings for each other. They just want to have sex all the time. And it's not interesting. Like, their relationship to me means nothing anymore right now. I feel nothing for them because they have lost the special essence of their romance that was in the first book. Like, I don't know what Rebecca Yarros is thinking. Like, what is she doing? I'm just so freaking sad because I loved Fourth Wing so much, but I don't know where she's going with this series. I did hear that this series was only supposed to be a trilogy, but then it got extended to 5 books because of the success that this series has garnered, and I think that was a big fat mistake because this series is starting to drag, and that probably is because Rebecca Yarros is feeling forced to have to extend this series and create more filler for it because the publisher is wanting 5 books in the series when it was supposed to be a trilogy, and that freaking sucks. Like, this series, I'm sorry, hot take right here, but I kind of agree with a lot of people when they say that this series is like fast fashion books that are meant to be cash grabs. It's starting to feel that way now. I'm starting to see it now, and I don't like that. So I probably will return to this, maybe I really want to return to it because I did buy the third book, so I'd like to continue on the series, but right now it's just let me down. If I do end up continuing on with this series, then I probably won't start it back up again until the series is complete, so I could just like binge read it if I wanted to. And I don't know how long it's going to take for this series to be complete. It could take years, so I may not pick up this series again for a long time, but for right now I'm done with it. I'm done, and I'm really sad about that. So after the failure that was Onyx Storm, I really did not want to pick up another fantasy or anything that was too heavy with world building. I just wanted to pick up something that was chill, that took place in the real world, that was contemporary. So I'm like, let's pick up a contemporary romance. Let's just pick up something easy and mind-numbing. So Unsteady by Peyton Corrine was on my TBR for this month, so I thought, you know what, it's the perfect time to pick it up if I want to read something easy. So I picked it up, and it was okay. And I'm really sad to say that because I was really hyped for this book because of what it was about, and it let me down just a little bit. So going into what this one is about, so we're following Reese, who is a hockey player, and Sadie, who is an ice skater. These two hit the rink early in the mornings in order to get their individual practices in. And after a bad injury that happened during a game, Reese has constant anxiety. And one day, Sadie finds him at the rink in the middle of a panic attack, and she helps him out of it. And these two are instantly drawn to each other. But Sadie's priorities are taking care of her two younger brothers and succeeding as a skater, so she doesn't have any time for a relationship, but eventually she does give in to Reese. So like I said, I was so excited to read this because the premise of an ice skater and a hockey player having a romance, for one, sounded really good, but also I loved the idea of this ice skater, Sadie, helping Reese out of a panic attack. I thought that sounded really, really sweet. But this book ended up being my biggest disappointment read of this year so far. My biggest problem with this book is that the romance felt really rushed. Right after meeting, Reese and Sadie are obsessed with each other, and I would have preferred to see more of a build-up to them liking each other and becoming really obsessed with each other. They had feelings for each other while hardly even knowing each other, and that just made zero sense. And this is where my major issue comes in. I feel like their relationship was so lust heavy, and I feel like with a book that has a premise where one character is helping the love interest out of a panic attack and helping him get over anxiety, it felt so inappropriate that this book was very, very much focused on explicit sex scenes, and that these characters were initially only focused on lust that they had for each other. It just felt so out of place. I feel like with the deep premise that this book has and how much mental health is one of the main focuses of this book, we could have had these characters helping each other out of their anxieties and helping each other with their situations, and then bonding over their individual anxieties, and that in turn helping them to grow closer, which that does happen towards the end of this book, but that could have happened way earlier, where the basis of their relationship was due to them helping each other out of their anxieties and trauma. Like, there was so much potential for some really sweet trauma bonding here, but in the beginning they're only focused on fucking each other. It just makes no freaking sense, and it felt so inappropriate. And along with that, the sex scenes just felt so freaking out of place. Like, they just happened at the most random moments. I'm like, why is this isn't appropriate, you guys. They were literally in one scene, they were at the rink where people are like around, and they're just suddenly like they hit the showers and they start doing it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's just not appropriate. And most of those scenes, they just didn't serve really any purpose. There was maybe only one spicy scene in here that actually felt like it served the story. The rest of them, they didn't need to be there. It just felt like filler. And I will say that I feel like this book is a great example on the epidemic that we have currently, where every romance book has spicy scenes, and for some romance books, these spicy scenes are not needed. This is a book where it feels like those sex scenes were just thrown in there for the sake of having them because it's what's popular right now. And that is not a good thing. But talking about the characters individually, I did like Reese. He is very, very sweet. He has absolutely wonderful parents, and it shows because he was raised right. He is so kind. I found it really heartbreaking that he struggles with PTSD and kept it hidden for so long, so his teammates never knew what he was going through, but he's forced to stay strong so that he can be a good captain for his team. Sadie is extremely hard-headed, so she does come across as unlikable, but her family life is very strained, so her constant attitude does make sense because she's never been shown a lot of love. I loved the sweet relationship that she has with her younger brothers as she's trying to gain custody over them. And those two boys were actually my favorite part about this book. They were so freaking cute and sweet, and I really felt for them. Like, they were the highlight of this book. After the 75% mark, the book does get better, and the romance did improve a little bit since Reese and Sadie were opening up to each other more. But I feel like the insta-lust and borderline insta-love cheapened the romance overall and was not fitting for the concept of this book. I may pick up the sequel and give this author another chance, especially because I hear that the second book is actually really good. It's gotten really high ratings. So I think I'll still pick it up because it does also follow different characters that were shown in this book. So I think I will give it a chance, but I am going to put it off for just a little bit because right now I'm just, after this book was so disappointing, I'm not really interested in picking it up at the moment, but I probably will at some point. But yeah, this one was disappointing. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It could have been better. Next, I picked up my book of the month book for this month, and that is Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stevens. This is the first book I had ever read from this author, so it was a new to me author, and it was really good. And this book follows the idea of reincarnation. So in this one, we are following Evan and Arden, who are 2 souls that are reincarnated into a new body every 18 years. But Arden is forced to kill Evelyn by their 18th birthday during each life that they have. And after Arden kills Evelyn, the reincarnation cycle restarts all over again. In present day, Evelyn wants to stay in their current body in order to save their sister. So they are doing everything they can to avoid being killed by Arden. And so Evelyn eventually finds Arden in their present life, and Evelyn has a hard time not falling in love with Arden just like they do in every single life that they've had. Before continuing on, I'm just going to say that I am going to try to call these two they and them because they are 2 souls and they don't have like a designated body. So they are souls, they have no gender. But in their present life, Evelyn is in a female body and Arden is in a male body. So if I slip up and accidentally call them she, her, or he, him, that is my bad. I can see myself doing that, but I will try to call them they, them. So if I forget and slip up, I apologize, but I will try to call them they, them while I'm talking about this book. I absolutely loved the reincarnation concept of this book, as it's a concept I don't think I've ever read about before, and I loved reading about it. I found it so fascinating that these souls have existed since pretty much the beginning of time. And one thing I loved about this book is that we get flashback chapters of them during their previous lives together, and these flashbacks take place throughout all of history, as far back as the 1900s, the 1800s. I think at one point we see them in the year like 1000, like it goes way back. I loved our 2 main souls. Evelyn is the sweetest thing ever. Evelyn is forced to be reincarnated into new lives and have new families, but despite the fact that they have to leave their families by the time that they turn 18, that doesn't stop Evelyn from loving their family and getting attached to them, when Evelyn could easily keep their distance to make leaving them less painful, but they choose to risk their heart in order to feel love, and I just found that so admirable. It makes me myself want to cherish love even though it can come with pain, just based on Evelyn's story and how she's willing to let herself feel love even though she'll be forced to lead those people. Like, it's just such a great message. We should just all let love in, even though it can come with a lot of despair. Like, love is not pretty, love is not perfect, but we should just risk our hearts sometimes and do it anyway, and that's exactly what Evelyn does. Arden is very intelligent, and they love to write poetry to express their thoughts and feelings about the world, and they specifically write about their love for Evelyn, which is super sweet. This book definitely covers the idea of soulmates, as Evelyn and Arden have loved each other for thousands of years. I could understand the love that they have for each other, as they are the only ones who understand each other as reincarnated souls, because they are the only ones who will consistently be in each other's lives for years to come. The sole issue that I did have with this book is that we are never shown the initial start of how Arden and Evelyn fell for each other. We are only told that they have always been in love with each other all these years. And for me to really buy a romance, I have to watch the characters fall in love. So the explanation of they're just soulmates didn't work for me. It doesn't mean that I didn't see their chemistry, because I definitely did. I could see the love that these two had for each other, and I really did love their dynamic. But there was that element of the falling in love stage that I love to read about so much that was just missing from this book. But I gotta say that this book was so freaking hard to put down, because for 90% of this book, you do not know the reason why Arden has to kill Evelyn. You do not find out the reason why until way later. And because we are only following Evelyn's point of view, and she does not know the reason why Arden has to kill them by their 18th birthday in each life that they have. All these years, for thousands of years, Evelyn has always wondered why Arden has to kill them. Like, can you just imagine being in the dark to that fact for so long? She's gone so long just not understanding why Arden has to always kill them. And so because Evelyn doesn't know, and we're following her point of view, you don't know, the reader, for the longest time. And so that's really what kept me reading this book, is the mystery to why Arden has to kill Evelyn, even though Arden is in love with them. So it didn't make sense why they had to kill Evelyn, so I just had to know, and the reasoning is so freaking insane. I did not see that reasoning coming. I was like, oh my god, okay, that is absolutely wild. This book, with all of its twists and how everything came together at the end, was wrapped up so well. So I did really enjoy this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was an absolutely incredibly fascinating book. I definitely want to read more books that cover the concept of reincarnation. I'm sure more are out there. I just have to search for them, because this one, I really love the concept of it. And next, I have none other than A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I started my reread of this book in February, I believe. So I finished it in March, and I had been listening to the graphic audio of this one. This is the first ever graphic audiobook that I had ever listened to. I had always wanted to try them out, and I finally did with this series. And I'm going to continue listening to the graphic audiobooks of this series. I'm currently listening to the one of A Court of Mist and Fury right now, and it's really good. If you don't know, graphic audiobooks, they're audiobooks, but they have voice actors for each of the characters in them, and they also have music and sound effects in them, so it's pretty much like listening to a movie. You're just not seeing everything played out visually, but you get to hear all the different voice actors, the music, the sound effects. It is actually really cool. And because of the fact that the TV show for Court of Thorns and Roses has been canceled, the graphic audiobook is the closest thing you will get to a TV or movie adaptation of this series yet. Hopefully it'll be picked up again, but the Hulu adaptation did get canceled, which is pretty disappointing. I'm not going to explain what this one is about. I'm sure most of you know. So yeah, it is a book about Fae, follows Fae, one of the most popular series of all time these past years, for good reason. This series is so good. I think this is the 5th time I have read the first book, which is insane. I am just obsessed with this series. A Court of Thorns and Roses was a 5-star when I first read it, and it is still a 5-star. I'm still keeping that rating. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to keeping on listening to the graphic audiobook of this series. I will say though, one thing that I didn't notice in the graphic audiobook is how much Tamlin growls. The voice actor for Tamlin makes him growl a lot, and it is so cringe, but it is so on brand for Tamlin. Like, of course, when I envision Tamlin, I envision him growling a lot. He is just that kind of guy. So yeah, the growling for Tamlin, definitely on brand. And the last book I read this month, and my only 5-star book that I have this month, this one was a surprise. This one may come as a surprise because I know how controversial this book is, but I loved it. And that is Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. Oh my god. Still thinking about this one. Still very much thinking about it. This one I'm not going to talk about a whole lot in this video because I am currently reading the sequel to it right now, which is Hunting Adeline. And these two books are part of a duology series. Like, this is not a companion series romance. These two books coincide together. So I want to talk about this series as a whole. I want to talk about the whole story as a whole. So I'll talk more about this series in my April wrap up, but I will quickly mention my thoughts to Haunting Adeline. It was wild. It was absolutely insane, and I was all here for it. So if you don't know, this is a dark romance duology. The basic premise of it is that the MMC stalks our female main character, which is Adeline. And so that's where the controversy of this series does come in, because there's a lot of stalking in this series, and there's some very questionable scenes, I will say, that causes a lot of discourse around this duology. So yes, it does have its problematic elements, but at the same time, I just found these characters to be so freaking interesting. Their individual characters are very fascinating to me. I really loved Adeline. I think she's a very strong-willed character. She's very tough. And what I really loved about her is that she does have grounded morals in the beginning of this book, but as she starts to get to know her stalker more, because they're spending more time together, and she starts to kind of like see things about him that are not so bad, even though he does stalk her, her morals start loosening up, and she really battles with that. Like, she does not want to excuse the fact that he stalks her, but she's having a hard time keeping her morals that stalking is bad when she is falling for him. And I just really found that dilemma that she has with herself very interesting. And I also loved Zaid, who is the love interest that we are following. He is actually a vigilante, which was really interesting because he is the one who is stalking Adeline. And so that makes him very contradictory. He's pretty much a guy who makes up his own morals. But I really love the fact that he's a vigilante and he helps to stop crime. Like, he has his own organization that helps to stop human trafficking and crime and abusing children. But at the same time, he's a stalker. It's just really, really, really wild. So those are my brief thoughts about this book. Like I said, I'll talk about this duology in April when I've finished the second book. But yeah, I just found this duology so freaking entertaining. It is definitely dark. It is definitely not a book that will be for everyone because of its content. The triggers in this book are abundant. We have human trafficking. We have pedophilia. We have stalking. We have dubious consent that borderlines on completely no consent, which is very like, but also like, okay, she kind of wants it, but she kind of doesn't. So definitely keep those things in mind. I was reading reviews of this book, and it was apparent that a lot of people did not know what they were getting into when they picked this one up. So please be very aware of what exactly is in this book before going into it. But I liked it. And I don't know what that says about me, but I really loved it. And I hope I love the second book just as much. So that was my wrap up, the 8 books that I read this month. Like I said, this was a very weird month because my quality in reading went down just slightly. I read some books that I wasn't completely into, but I hope April will be better. I think the TBR that I do have stacked up for April looks promising. So I'm hoping I'll have a good reading month in April. We'll just see how it goes. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned, what you thought of them. I would love to know. Also, if you are interested, please follow me on Bookstagram, Instagram. I'm pretty active on there, and I really enjoy Bookstagram. I love posting pictures about books, taking pictures of books. I just love the community over there. So I will have my Bookstagram linked down below if you would like to follow me on there. And I'll be back really soon. I plan to post my April TBR video tomorrow. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully I see you then. Bye.